Hello and welcome to this week's episode of For the Love of Chiropractic, 3 Keys of My Success. I'm Dr. Robert Freeman, your host of the show, and today I have the opportunity to speak with another amazing chiropractor. And here's who he is.
Hey everyone, I am Dr. Mike Southwick. I've been in practice, over 25 years now, starting 26, run a highly successful chiropractic practice, different associates. Over the years, I've helped train chiropractors, I've had some consulting with building teams, and I'm just excited to share with you guys today what's been going on.
Hello and welcome to Secrets of My Success, part of For the Love of Chiropractic podcast series. On each episode, I'll be interviewing one highly successful doctor or business person, asking them what are their 3 keys of success or secrets they've used to make themselves so highly successful. So let's get started with today's show. I have with me on the phone Dr. Mike Southwick. Mike, are you there?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm ready.
I am so glad you're able to take and make the time to join me today, and I'm anxious to hear everything you have to share with us. So as we get started, Mike, I know you said in the intro, but tell me again, how long have you been in practice?
25 years completed. We're going on 26 this year. Absolutely.
That's awesome. And you went to which school?
I went to Palmer and Davenport.
Nice. I was just out in Davenport last summer. My daughter and I took a field trip. She's down at Palmer, Florida, so she wanted to see what the fountainhead looked like.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I haven't been out there for a while, but need to get back.
So you know what a special place it is.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
All right. So please tell me. So what was your path? How did you become a chiropractor?
Well, funny enough, with a sports injury, actually, and I had problems before that, but I didn't realize it. But I hurt my shoulder. My mom's been a nurse forever. My dad's been an EMT, fire chief. We're a medical family. And so we went down the medical road, and I did the drugs and the PT a little bit and just didn't really have, amazing miracle results, but I got by. I knew it wasn't great, but I got by. Tried to play basketball in college. Wasn't that great. That's all right. But one morning in college, I woke up in so much pain, frozen shoulder as an 18-year-old, and had been down the medical route. And my sister said she had actually graduated from college. She was working for a chiropractor. She's like, you got to come in and see my chiropractor. And I was like, I had no idea what a chiropractor was really. I told her I didn't have back pain. She's like, most of their patients didn't.
Yep.
Anyway, she said, what do you have to lose? And I was like, good point. I went into this office and it was gorgeous. It had skylights and it was just like, it was probably nicer than any medical office I'd been in. And so I just assumed every chiropractor was an absolute rock star. And, it was just, I just remember that. And it was, years and years ago. But it was Dr. Bruce Hagen in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. That's where I went to school I'm from Nebraska, but went to school to play basketball up there. And, the miracle happened. He took films of me, showed me what was going on, adjusted my neck, but my shoulders started working. And so I'm like, what in the heck?
Amazing.
And I thought I was like, what is going on? And I thought I knew I wanted to be in the medical field somewhere, but I thought maybe an eye doctor because I didn't like blood and guts and needles and stuff like that. And I didn't even know, I didn't know what I wanted to do. But I asked Dr. Bruce, I said, hey, man, I don't understand what just happened, but is there any way I could figure out how to do what you did for me, with someone else? And it was so funny because he didn't skip a beat. He goes, how good a basketball player are you? I was like, I am not good. They don't need me. I'm like slow and white. I can shoot, but that's about it.
But NBA are not your middle initials.
No, not even college really. But he said, good, get out of here and go to get your prereqs all done, go to Palmer. But it wasn't until Palmer when I started getting adjusted on a super regular basis for a longer amount of time, I realized I didn't have any more sore throats. And as a kid, I always had sore throats. The wintertime, just these blistering, can't swallow, go in, get the antibiotics over and over and over. And my mom literally was like, hey, Mike, you haven't been to a medical doctor for like a couple years. What's going on? What's going on with your throat? And I was like, holy crap, I haven't had sore throats in like 2 years.
Yep.
And it was just, kind of realization after realization. And, away we went. So.
That's awesome. I love your story. And, everybody has a unique story, and yours is just absolutely fabulous. And thank God you were not a good basketball player.
Yeah, they didn't need me. No.
So, okay. So you graduated from Palmer about 25 years ago. And then what happened? Did you associate?
99.
You opened?
I associated for like a couple months, and I realized that if I was going to do this thing, let's just do it. And my wife and I got married and started practice and had a child all within like 13 months.
Wow.
And while I do not, recommend that necessarily, it put my feet to the fire, which was a great thing. And really, when our son was born, I had remembered in chiropractic college, going through pediatrics and going through techniques and that sort of thing, and hearing about birth stress trauma, thinking, my 22 or 3-year-old self at that point, geez, I hope I'm never in that position. But when that came to deliver that baby, it was terrible. Cord around the neck, came out blue, lifeless, nothing going. And the midwife, we were in a hospital, but the midwife went to get called a crash cart. And I, shaking hands, got on that delivery table and set his atlas, man, and he started screaming. And the oxygen started coming back, and he started getting pink.
Yep.
The chest, and finally the little fingers and toes. And it really, I think at that point, crossed over from a career, a technique, whatever you want to say, to an absolute mission.
Mm-hmm.
And had things gone different in that delivery room, he's 25 now. And we play rounds of golf together. He just texted me earlier, you want to play in the morning, and I look at that kid, and it just sums up the 25 years. Now we had two daughters, much less traumatic, and we've given so many, hundreds of thousands of adjustments over these years. But that was such a catalyst in the beginning that was just a godsend in a weird, stressful, crazy way.
Wow. That's a great story. I love that. And man, I mean, talk about being tested to the highest level at a stressful moment, and you showed up and did what needed to be done. Good for you.
It was crazy.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, okay, so now you're in practice, married with kids, because that happened all within just over a year. So, and the practice is now, it's rolling along. It's years later, because you said your son is 25 now. So what makes your office unique?
I was thinking about that, and I think it's my belief. I know it's my belief system. Anymore, we know about innate intelligence. We know God put that within people. And I can look at someone and see, almost like you've heard the story or the speech, the acres of diamonds. And, I look at that person as, there's a diamond inside, there's innate intelligence inside, but somehow, some way, I got to figure out what got dumped on them. What happened in their life that diamond is buried. We cannot see the glimmer. We cannot see the gleam. It's my job to dig that sucker out and start buffing and let that shine come through. And we know that once that happens, they're going to start healing, but it's my job to see that when they can't see that, and to almost be that confident cheerleader along the way and let them know it's in there.
Yep.
But then as it starts showing signs of life, and as it starts say, hey, this is what I was talking about. This is what I'm talking about, right? You're starting to show signs of life. You're starting to come alive. And then, it's super easy to say, hey man, we got to buff this. We got to keep your glow going, right? Life wants to kill it. And I say life in the life stress analogy way.
Right.
And if they don't, and they come back in, hey man, let's go see how deep you are. Let's go see how buried you are, and let's start digging. Let's start shining, and then maybe this time, we'll keep a buff on that thing, right? We'll keep your glow going strong. And I've kind of looked at that, and I've used that analogy, and I think that I know that helps people know that they're special, know that they have an innate ability to heal. Maybe that's the first time they've ever heard that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, no, you got a special, you will glow like a diamond once we get it out, once we get it buffed, once you see what you can really be. And then from there, let's keep it that way.
Because by definition, it's in there. I mean, you're alive. It has to be in there.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and I love that, and I love your approach to patients, and clearly I understand what makes your office unique. So, as you and I were talking the other day when we were chatting, before we were recording today, I mentioned that I was going to ask you about your 3 keys of success. And before time gets too far away from us, I really want to start to dig into that. So, what would you say your first key of success is?
Yeah, 100% your morning ritual. And I think that revolves around, I have a really great buddy, Todd Boggs. He's a chiropractor about 7 hours away from me. And we went to school about the same time. He was a little ahead of me. And we text each other every morning. We're not even in the same time zone. We text each other every morning exactly when we get up. And typically it's right at 5, a little before 5, whatever it is. But I have a very specific morning routine with meditation, visualization, Bible study, journaling, workout. Well, coffee's in there too. Workout, walk my dog, go through my specific goals. And way before anything starts, way before any emails, any phone type stuff, I think you've got to get your mind right every stinking day, and that goes back to, gleaming, brushing up that innate, right? Getting connected right away before everything hits the fan.
Absolutely, because this world that we live in, it wants to dull us down, and it's our job to shine even brighter.
Yeah, exactly. So it's got to start with the morning ritual. Absolutely.
So, and I love that. So your morning ritual is your number 1 key to success. What's number 2?
I would say the guys you hang around with, guys and gals that you keep closest to you, is I've been blessed. I have, like I said, Todd's an accountability partner. We've done some different coaching on, Christian life living for young chiros. I have other guys, Dane Donahue and Kevin Keys. We meet every Tuesday morning. I'm part of a group that Chuck Gibson, if you know him, started 50 years ago, a mastermind brotherhood. And I just keep really good people around me in every facet, whether it be my spiritual life, chiropractic, obviously, my wife, the friends that we hang around with. It is absolutely crucial that you have people around you that have maybe done more, right, than you have, but that are encouraging you along the way.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think mentorship is so important for all of us and accountability partners. I couldn't agree with you more. So if those are the first 2, so then what's number 3?
I think, and I was thinking about this, but I think you've got to constantly find places to grow, constantly find whether they're niches or whether it's technique, whether it's philosophy, whether it's neurology, whatever it is, dig in to where, and I remember Pat Gentempo talking about knowing something so well, so complex that you can make it simple and that you can make it, you can communicate it. And I just constantly refine the day 1, the day 2, getting the time down, shrinking that down, especially on that day 2. It's like, this is exactly what it is, and I know it so well, and I have been through it so many times, and I have so much, experience and practice that I think it's continually growing and continually learning to where your confidence is just at such a high level. It's just like, you're not mixing words. It's just like, this is what we have. This is what we need to do. Let's go.
Yeah, it's been said so many times before. not just on this podcast, but in other places, the definition of a professional is a person who can take the difficult and complex and make it look easy and explain it simply.
Mm-hmm.
Because as you just said, they own it to the nth degree.
Mm-hmm.
So
and you see that. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, and I see that in different professionals that I work with, whether it's a pastor, whether it's my financial guy, whatever that is. It's like I strive to be that competent for other people, and it's just cool to see it around you, and then to be that person.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, one of the things that I really enjoyed, because I've been in practice over 35 years now, is when you meet with other professionals who own the same concepts of success. This is what it takes to be successful. And I love your 3 keys. I mean, they always make my list. So you and I are speaking the same language. So when you sit down and talk to the financial guy, you sit down and talk to the athletic trainer, you sit down and talk to, a nutritionist, they have all of that same dedication and expertise on their plate. And now we're comparing what's on my plate compared to their plate, and it makes for an incredibly powerful mastermind, because it doesn't matter what field their specialty is. You're speaking the same language, and you're in a position and a level to learn from each other.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I just love that. So, all right, I've got to switch gears. I know we got off topic there for a minute.
Yep.
So my question is, with the success that you've created over the past 25 years, and it is admirable and remarkable and absolutely respectful. So can a young doc or so someone who's just out of school, or someone who hasn't found success yet, so here it is 2025, is it still possible in today's world to become a huge success if you're not there yet?
Yeah, absolutely. And I've got 2 kids. I've got a daughter and a son-in-law at Life in Atlanta, and they've got another, year and a half, couple years. They're going to be coming out and doing it. And they've been around my practice, and I sometimes chuckle because I think, oh gosh, at this point it looks easy, right? Yep. I hope they don't think that it's, just super easy. It's going to come down to having mentors and doing hard work. And the other reason I really believe that it's way possible is that we've really transitioned. We're almost out of all insurances. When I was first in practice, we did participate and play the game for a while. We've gotten out of that game, mm-hmm. and still been super successful. So I know it's possible. I know you can get in the community. I love doing talks personally. I don't do a ton of them anymore, but there's so many ways to get into your community and make those connections and let people know what you do. Stress is at an all-time high. I don't know who else is, more qualified to help people out that way.
Mm-hmm. No, I couldn't agree with you more. I have a daughter who's also in chiropractic school. She'll be graduating later this year. And I think some of the same things, because, my practice has also been very successful over the years. And that's all she's ever known is big, successful practice. Like, well, yeah, of course.
Yeah. And I think that's 100% okay. Remember, the first guy that I ever went to, and I didn't know what a chiropractor was. I went into a gorgeous office, and It was gorgeous. So what do you think I built? I built these offices, and we've done 3 or 4 of them, and they've all been, now I toned it down because I went super nuts a time ago with huge ceilings and skylights and all this stuff. And I leased it to a bank, and they didn't change anything to tell you how far I went overboard.
Wow.
But at the same time, I didn't know any better, and that was wonderful, right? I didn't have a situation where I came from a lack mentality. Now I have some lack mentalities that I've definitely dealt with over the years, but that wasn't one of them. I just figured all chiropractors had gorgeous offices, and so we just went that way. And so I think in your daughter's case, my daughter's case, they're going to go in expecting to have a successful practice right away because that's all they've known. And I think that's awesome.
Oh, exactly. And look, they've seen, certainly my daughter saw, how I've worked over the years. Your kids have seen how you've worked over the years. So they understand you have to do A and B to get
Yep.
C, D, E, F, G, H, and the entire rest of the alphabet that just comes from rolling up your sleeves and working hard.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yep.
So,
Definitely doable.
all right. So I'm going to switch gears and ask you a different question.
Okay.
So, Mike, how would you define business success?
I've always defined it, and the numbers, about the time you compare numbers, someone always has more. So I got away from that. But there's an abundance where there's always, business success is you're not paycheck to paycheck. You have an abundance. You have a plan for that abundance, and you're able to build wealth over time. So it's just not that scarcity mentality.
I love that. And again, I couldn't agree with you more. So if not living paycheck to paycheck, having a plan and building wealth over time is business success, how do you define personal success?
Yeah, absolutely. Personal success to me is having a connection in my situation with God, Jesus Christ, because when that can happen, it doesn't matter what situation I'm in, what town I'm in, what office I'm in, whatever. I can have joy in whatever situation because I know that this is not my final home. I know that our world is broken. I know that I'm not going to fix everything. And so I can chill out in that situation, even if it looks like I'm going through a trial or a test. Now, do I always go right to that all the time? No, but that's what allows me to be successful in my life to the point where I think people in my town might see me as successful. And that's easier to me than people in my house seeing me successful because they see the behind the scenes. And so I think personal success would be the people in your house having that respect for you, and that's not always easy.
Wow. So there's a lot of real estate between the personal side and the business side, and yet you seem to weave it together and make it all work.
Well, I've banged my head against the wall lots of years.
Well, be careful because I can subluxate you, but that's a whole nother story.
Exactly. Right.
All right.
Exactly.
All right. So I've got time, unfortunately, is starting to run short. So I've got to ask you another question.
Yep.
So if there is a young doc or someone who's not successful yet, who's listening to this, what would you want to say to them that their first step, if they're like, you know what, man, you know what, Dr. Southwick has done, I think I can do this too. What would you want to say to them that their first step should be?
They've got to get out of their four walls, or that's probably going to mean getting out of their comfort zone. I remember when I was first, that first year in practice, man, we were doing screenings. We were at county fairs. We were, John DeMartini said something that I heard on some recording. The more you, what do you say, meet and greet, the more you'll treat. And I don't usually use the word treat, but that's that concept.
Mm-hmm.
And just getting out and serving other people. And whether that's in committees or being on boards, I've done it all. It seems like at some point, being active in your church, whatever it is, but getting out there and just serving people first before you expect them maybe to come in to you. And I know that to a guy that's struggling, they're like, hey, I need him to come in now. Well, that's where you may go do a screening and you may have something, quick start now. But in general, you've got to do the quick and you've got to do the service mode that, will come around in time. I had just last week some people come in as new patients, and I had done a talk, I don't know, it's 3 or 4 or 5 months ago. Mm-hmm. And they're just now coming in. But it's layering those community connections over and over and over, not because you have to, but because you really want to serve other people out of your own abundance, your own heart.
Yeah. Why did you become a chiropractor? Why did you become a doctor? What's your purpose on this earth?
Yeah.
So I absolutely love that. Dr. Mike Southwick, I can't thank you enough for sharing your knowledge, your wisdom, your expertise on this interview today. And it has been such a pleasure having you here as a guest.
All righty. No, thank you. This is an absolute blast, and I love to do it, and I love to share. If it helps, that's great.
All right. Thank you, and I'll look forward to us chatting again soon.
All righty. We'll see you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. And that's our show for today. If you have a question about today's show or your own practice, feel free to reach out at fortheloveofchiropractic.com. Before making changes to your practice, be sure to seek legal advice regarding those changes and regulations in your state. For the Love of Chiropractic is an RGF production, all rights reserved. And thanks for listening. Original music provided by Hunter Rich Music.